Whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people.
Whose car are we going to take?
Hello, happy Monday. Thanks for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show. We'll be getting into the JPMorgan settlement with the Jeffrey Epstein victims. We kind of have a packed show. It's going to be slightly abbreviated. My daughter is starting her new medication today, so I got to grab her from school early to do that. But I am going to be here. I'm also moving slower. I had a bit of a good time last night to just start off the show. I played something called Boozy Bingo, which was so much fun. I actually won. But I've been telling you guys, I've been giving up drinking during the week. So I really only drink on the weekends. And I think my tolerance is going way down. So if I'm moving a little slower, that's why. And if you have any hangover recommendations for me, I've been pounding my water. It's been a while that I've been not this hungover. I'm not dying or anything, but besides the water, we'll see if I can snap to it. Okay, so what else do we have coming up on the show? Yes, and please click that thumbs up button while we start it off. So we're going to get into Jeffrey Epstein, the settlement that JPMorgan Chase is paying out to some of his victims. JPMorgan Chase is facing a number of other lawsuits as well. Before we get to that, though, I'm going to touch on the Tonys. The Tony Awards actually happened last night. Many people thought it was in doubt, but I'm really just going to call out one actor who lost. We love him, but his face is making the rounds today. A couple of protests, too. The Oakland A's. Is anybody in the chat? Any of you going to tomorrow's A's game, Oakland A's game? It's like a reverse boycott. It's happening tomorrow. So we'll touch on that. There was another protest at a drag queen story hour in San Lorenzo. This was actually, I think, the one that started it all. Not started it all, but a year ago. They had been protested, and a lot of people paid attention to that. But the reason why I'm touching on it again, because I know we talk about this all the time, is the irony of one of the groups that was there protesting. So you'll hear from him, and I just don't get it. There's also another protest happening that some of you may or may not know about. It's happening on Reddit. So many of the subreddits have gone dark. They're not up. And it's because of this pricing that they've announced is going to start at the end of this month. And so one of the people leading this protest is explaining it to all of us. I'm not a huge Reddit user. I mean, sometimes if a thread goes viral, I'll see it. And that's kind of the point of this protest, is where people actually see some of these Reddit threads. So if you are a Reddit user, you may have noticed this as well. A Northern California man is suing Safeway over its deals. And it's going to make me pay much more close attention to these so-called deals that grocery stores like to give out, because it's not what you think it is necessarily. And that's what this guy's lawsuit is all about. And then I do want to have time to get to this story. If you beautify a neighborhood with certain things, can it also be anti-homeless? A neighborhood in San Francisco has installed these new planners. And some people are saying, oh, it's great. But the other people are saying, no, you're just trying to get rid of the homeless. And is that so bad? So we'll get into that as well. All right. So click that thumbs up button before we get into all of that. I really appreciate it. Our super chat is also live. If you guys want to donate any money to the show while the show is happening, or even on replay, just look for the $sign And you could donate any amount, and it helps me, it helps Kim, and helps keep the show going. But if you're looking to be a huge supporter, a regular supporter of the show, please consider becoming a monthly Patreon subscriber. We really appreciate it. So many of you have donated, and I love the community that we formed, and I want to continue to grow it. And the only way we can is to be able to afford to do the show. So just go to theNikkiMedoroShow.com, theNikkiMedoroShow.com, and you'll find the Patreon link there. And again, you can sign up for any amount. And then if you're like, I love this show, definitely want to keep it, and you could bump it up, that would be even more amazing. And of course, there's also links at theNikkiMedoroShow.com to our PayPal, and of course to the merchandise shop as well. Okay. So let's get into, well, first let's do a little lighter story before we get into the Epstein, because I mean, it's a big settlement. Anybody watch the Tonys though? So now there was, because the writer's strike is still going on. I think we're like, what, 7 weeks into it? Something like that. So for weeks, it appeared that the Tonys was not going to happen or be postponed indefinitely because of the writer's strike. Now, at first, the Writers Guild behind the writer's strike did not grant the Tony Awards a waiver to have the ceremony happen. Then it later announced it would not pick at the event after the Tony Awards agreed to not have any scripts. So it was completely script free so that they were not targeted by picketers, which I totally understand. Then there was this, which I just find to be and we just love Samuel L. Jackson. I did not know, but he was up for a Tony Award last night. So there he is, top left of your screen, not looking oh so happy. So Samuel L. Jackson was nominated for his role in a play that was directed by his wife. So the role was for August Wilson's The Piano Lesson. That's what Samuel L. Jackson was up for. And he did not win. He lost to the guy, I believe, on the top right, Brandon Uranowitz for Leopoldstadt, which I guess was the big winner of the Tony Awards. But here's my question for you. I mean, he lost. I don't think that people need to be so happy. If you watch the video, I play you the video, but I'll probably get dinged for it, and I don't want to be dinged this early in the show. But it's just like, if you lose, are you supposed to always look so freaking happy? Let's welcome our friend and partner, Kim McAllister, to the show. So, Kim, there's Samuel L. Jackson. Not so happy. And of course, his wife also didn't win. Her play didn't win either. So it was like, do you think that it's freaking like natural to not want to put a smile on your face? I mean, come on.
I think when you go to those things, you know the camera's on you, and so you plaster the
fake smile. But yeah. I love the fact. I mean, look at him. He's like, no, MFers. I wanted to win. I'm not gonna win. He got like, all dressed up.
You won? That's robbery.
You're like, damn it. But whatever. But yeah, so Samuel L. Jackson did not win, but it was a good news that they were able to actually have the Tony Awards, and it was script free. And I guess the opening number by I forget who was leading the whole show, but it was really amazing. So Google it and watch the YouTubes. I didn't do it because I knew I was going to get dinged.
Have you? I have been sucked into the YouTube vortex where I have spent
well, that's good.
2 hours watching former. Oh, there I am again. Look at that. I have the biggest problem with my computer. Where I've spent 2 hours just watching old Tony opens. The open
really?
Show.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you, like James Corden and Hugh Jackman, they do these fantastical numbers where they celebrate every show, and they do these big dance numbers, and they're running around backstage, and it's really cool. Yeah, you have to go back and look at years past. The show opened. So
I can only imagine the Tony Awards put on an amazing show. I mean, these people
that it was
spend
not
their life
scripted.
On stage. Yeah.
After what they have to live up to, that's a pretty big deal that they managed to just pull it off. Yeah. Kind of a cappella.
Exactly. Yeah. Lady Beatrice says, I think if you lose, you don't have to be happy, but be a good sport to the one who won. Yeah, he clapped. He didn't take the smirk off of his face, though, which is really, really funny. Al Anonymous says, it reminds me of Ben Affleck at that one award show. Why am I here? That was, what was that at? Was that a music? Was it a music one? I think it was. think it was a
It was a Grammys. Yeah.
was it the Grammys? It was
Yeah.
one of those.
This look on his face was like, would
I
rather
think
be
he's
anywhere else.
just done being at all.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wonder how entertaining it really is if you keep going to them. I mean, there has to be a point where you're just like, you've been to one, you've been to all of them, and it's just it's too much. And yes, Kim did just go from hosting Mark's show, and we love Kim on this show, on Mark's show, and I've always told her to have her own show, but she never listens to me.
What are you talking about?
But yes, believe me, we all love Kim McAllister. She's an amazing talent.
You know why, though? It's because my favorite part, which is horrible. I should say my favorite part of the day is pickup when I get to see my kids. My favorite part of the day, though, is these conversations I get to have with you and with Mark about politics, about life stuff, about everything. It's this conversation that I really enjoy. It's the part of working at KGO that was my favorite, going to work and seeing my people. So yeah.
That's why. But yes, we agree.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Nice.
And you weren't on when I was sharing. I was disclosing. I'm moving a little slow today.
Okay. There has been drinking over the weekend or what?
I played boozy bingo yesterday and I won. People. But yeah, because I'm not
win.
Well, technically, I should have won $400, but I won $200 because I split it. So I won the blackout. So I got all the numbers, but so did like 5 other people.
Oh.
And so they made you do a dance off. And so me and this other woman were like getting most of the cheers. And like she looked at me and I looked at her. I'm like, well, we could just split it or we can kind of keep going back and forth. So we just split it.
Okay.
So
I would expect that you would win a dance off. I'm very proud right now.
Yeah. It's good it happened at the point of the night that it did because I don't know how much I want to remember, but it was a fun night. But I was saying, I was like, I stopped drinking during the week. I think my tolerance went down. You don't feel like I drink that much, but I am not feeling well this morning. But anyways,
that's a bingo party right there. That's
great.
It
was a lot of fun. It was so much fun. I love bingo, even without the booze. I think bingo is just too much fun. But anyways, okay. So in Oakland tomorrow night for tomorrow night's game, they're doing the reverse protest. So they're asking people to come out and go to the game to protest the fact that they're being accused, the fans, of being the reason why the Oakland A's are leaving. And I mean, Kim, do you really believe that people are actually blaming the fans? I mean, of course, attendance numbers matter, but when you have a team that got rid of all of its players and then also jacked up the price of tickets, I mean, it's going to have some sort of repercussion. The A's average 8,675 fans per home game. That is dead last among 30 teams. One A's fan tweeted on Friday that they had determined 14,700 tickets had been sold for tomorrow's game, but it's not going to change anything. They want them to sell the team instead of moving the team. I mean, again, I'm not a huge baseball fan. There you go, because it's gorgeous. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I can imagine how betrayed the fans must feel. And I do hope that they sell out the whole game. Let's see. So they've one group, Oakland 68s, which are they play the drums at the Coliseum. They teamed up with local clothing brand Oaklandish to produce thousands of green shirts with the message "sell" printed across, and they're giving them out to fans at tomorrow's game. They cost $5 to make, and they hope to raise $25,000 to cover the costs. They collected more than $27,000 in donations, so even more than that.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not really hopeful that it's going to work. I'm sorry, A's fans, if you guys are hopeful that some miracle is going to happen. Unless they do sell the team, but I think that's a long shot as well. I just don't see it happening at all. So, but good luck. I love this form of reverse protest. I think it's awesome. Plus, you'll be with a lot of A's fans, which I think a lot of people definitely want to see.
Do you think if more A's fans went to the games, well, first of all, the team has to do better in order to draw more people.
But they're not spending any money on players. So
I don't think you can blame the fans for that.
No, not at all. Anonymous says, I don't know if this is a sarcastic one or not. They should turn the stadium into a homeless encampment, put tents everywhere, and shuttle them in on buses. Okay. I don't think they're going to do that. But the fans make the team. Yes. But at the same time, you have to give fans an experience. You can't jack up the ticket prices, not fix the stadium, make it, like a toilet. I mean, the flooding, all the issues at the stadium, well documented. And then not have any good players and then be like, well, the fans never showed up for their team. No, the owner wasn't taking care of the team. And so that's why they are going. Yes, I figured it was satire, Al. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what they still want to develop that area. They still want, something to go in. I believe at Howard Terminal, but I don't know what that's going to be. They have to do something to bring more people to Oakland, because if you don't have a team, you don't have a basketball team, you don't have a baseball team, what do you have? No one's actually visiting the ports. Like, you need something. So hopefully they figure it out. There was, keeping on the protest tip a bit, there was another protest in San Lorenzo Library on Sunday at Drag Queen Story Hour. Now, this is the one where there was protests, I believe, last year as well. I'm going to show you a little bit of this report. I want you to pay attention to this one guy, though, because I think it's the only guy that was interviewed that was protesting it. And the group that he is with, because I find it quite ironic. And I do believe I'm using irony in the right word, the right way, that right there. So here is this news report from KTVU. Here we go. Oh, boo. Oh, here. Where did it start? Oh, I lost the video. Oh, bummer. I'm so upset. No, the whole point of me sharing the video.
Do you want to find it while I tell you a little Drag Queen Story Hour story?
Please.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I have been watching this Facebook thread unfold. Actually, it is a viewer that turned me on to it.
Okay.
And it was people already kind of weeks ahead of time gathering steam to protest at Drag Queen Story Hour in Petaluma, which happened over the weekend. And they were saying drag is a sexual fetish. And that's how they were couching it to try to get people to come out and protest. And so I was thinking, right here in Petaluma, Drag Queen Story Hour,
right?
Gosh, I'd really like to take my kids and go to Drag Queen Story Hour, or at least be outside in support of Drag Queen Story Hour to let them know that when they come to a town that I hold dear, my home base, that they're welcome here, that this is a place of acceptance and a place where you're safe and you're okay. But then I thought, as a mom, I've got to put the safety of my kids first. And I don't know who's going to show up to protest. Now, this is a great area, but it's also an area that's got a lot of red, right? We've got a lot of people that own guns in this area. There's a conservative element, which is fine, except it makes me sometimes, given the current climate, wonder who's going to show up and whether it's a safe place to be.
Right.
We saw fights unfold, in San Lorenzo. I don't know if people are going to bring guns. I don't know what's going to happen. And so I decided to sit it out because of safety, the potential safety issues. But apparently this happened over the weekend in Petaluma, where the protesters came out. And I'm so happy to tell you that there were threefold more people
supporting.
That turned out to support Drag Time Story Hour than turned out to protest it. So I was proud.
Well, I think there was a lot of people that came out to this one in San Lorenzo as well. Yeah. I found the video, which is great to see, right? I think it was both, but I think the one in San Lorenzo was getting a lot of attention because it had been the site of past protests, and it was being advertised by this group, again, by the guy that's going to be, that I'll show you. And I'm not even going to tell you the name of the group he's with because it made me laugh when I saw it. Natalie, you're absolutely correct. Feet are a sexual fetish to some. Does that mean it's inappropriate to take your kid to get a pedicure? Exactly. Right. But again, there is a huge part of this is choice, right? Choosing to go someplace, choosing to bring your kid, like Kim just told in her story. She made a choice. She thought about everything. She's like, these people could be crazy. I'm not going to bring my kids in possibly put them in harm's way. It's
Right.
a choice that you make. Okay, so here it is. And again, just pay attention to the group that the guy that's interviewed is with. All right, here we go.
Like they could be too young. I think teenagers are okay, but not like 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds.
I disagree with that completely. I'm
Why?
just going to start off. Yes, exactly. Again, this is a story time. So I don't know teenagers going to story time at the library, lady. Now she's interviewed later on and she is a supporter, but yeah, they started off with that. So you're right.
Drag Story Hour was held at San Lorenzo Library Sunday afternoon, but not without some controversy. During the event, people gathered in front of the library to
stupid.
protest against and support a person dressed in drag reading to children.
Children should not be exposed to fringe alternative sexual lifestyles.
Ultimately, I don't entirely understand what is so controversial about these events. Ultimately, I think that people conflate drag with something sexual, something like burlesque or stripping, whereas drag is really more like makeup art or acting or singing.
Last year at the same library, a group of men showed up to Drag Story Hour and disrupted the program. Investigators said they may have been linked to the far-right extremist group, the Proud Boys, and the men left before police could arrive.
If they continue to happen, there'll
Look,
be
this
groups
guy.
of people, not just us, but I know like locally there's been other groups who have been protesting.
This year's
Okay, so that guy that was just interviewed is with Bay Area against mandates. Against mandates. So they were
space
against
dates,
huh?
manned space dates, or mandates.
Mandates. That's a good
Okay.
one. Man, so it was like an anti-vax. They don't want to be told what to do,
Sure.
which I find to be quite rich with a group that is telling people what they can and cannot do.
Yeah.
So that was like kind of the irony, but let me just finish it off because they do interview that woman again.
Drag Story Hour went on with no interruptions and the protest was peaceful. One mother who happened to be studying at the library Sunday says she supports Drag Story Hour when age appropriate and individual parents have given their consent.
I think they should mind their business and raise their kids how they want to raise them, you know. And it's, you know, if a parent wants to bring their kid, then they should be able to without protest.
So, but here's the thing. When she said age appropriate, there once again, I think like the woman behind the story hour was saying, you know, conflating it with some sort of sexuality. And it's not. If you put makeup on and do all this dressing or you're just reading a book, there's nothing sexual about it. And so to add that caveat, well, it may not be age appropriate means they're doing something that's wrong for kids to see and they're not. So I don't get it.
From what I've read on this in this Facebook thread with all these people that are wanting to protest the drag time story hour, is they're pointing to what happens at nightclubs, and they're pointing to being the drag queens being on stage and making sexual jokes or sexual gyrations or somehow moving in a sexual fashion. So I would argue this: what happens at a nightclub is not what happens at story hour.
Right.
Because they are appropriate people too, and they understand, drag queens, that their audience is children. They're not going to do the same thing at a 21 and over club. That's why it's a 21 and over club.
Exactly.
When they come to story hour for kids, they're going to sit down. They're going to say, "You all look so beautiful today. And you love your outfits. And here's a story that I'm going to read for you." And they'll open the book and they'll read. And that is it. And maybe they'll read with some flair. And that'll be fabulous. And that's all. It's not the same drag show that you fear. It's not. And so I would bring a 2-year-old. I would bring a 4-year-old or a 9-year-old or whatever, because that's what it is. And I would argue that if you're so worried about the sexualization of children, why don't you check out Toddlers and Tiaras?
Yes.
And fashion pageants for kids where they sexualize young children and put them in high heels and bathing suits, or dance clubs where they put these girls in these outfits that show their midriffs and paint their faces like, you know, like Hooker City.
Mhm.
Why don't we worry about that? If we're so worried about the sexualization of children, because that's the normal sexualization of children, that's okay?
Mhm.
No, it isn't, and it's a completely different. I think it's so hypocritical to think that that's okay, that that type of sexualization is okay, and
Mhm.
then just point the finger at people who aren't sexualizing at all.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
crazy to me.
Now, Al Anonymous brings up an interesting point. He's like, protests happen on both sides. True. Conservatives protest drag, liberals protest conservative speakers such as Riley Gaines for wanting sport equity. It sucks. Yeah, I mean, protests happen. I think the language that is used also matters, right? So Riley Gaines wanting, transgender women out of women's sports is it's an argument and a valid argument that you can make about an issue that she and many people are concerned about. I think the protest, and I can't speak for everybody, I would say that the protest against people like Riley Gaines is the language that she uses to talk about transgender women in sports, right? So if she's just talking about, like, I understand that transgender women exist, that transgender women want to play sports, that transgender women want to compete. My concern is X, Y, and Z, right? Talk about, but saying, that is a man, that is a boy, and using kind of this very hateful, dead naming people. And I'm not saying that's what Riley Gaines specifically is doing, but I'm just saying that when the argument becomes offensive, discriminatory language is used, that I think is worth protesting. Having a conversation about stuff like this it's necessary as long as people are being fair with their arguments. So for instance, with Drag Queen Story Hour, once people are educated about what drag queens are, the history of it, then they should use that to maybe alter their perspective on something like Drag Queen Story Hour. Sit inside Drag Queen Story Hour without protesting and watch what happens. See the interaction between the children and the person reading the book and see it that way. So yeah. I don't understand Chris's. I don't understand Chris's
It's
anger that
nonsense.
I
I
feel.
didn't click on it because it makes no sense.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I think that when you bring up Hooters, I was like, okay, do you support Hooters or are you a hypocrite? Do I support Hooters? I have eaten at Hooters, yes. Not often. I think there's better wings elsewhere. I don't know if you watched my show for how long. I hope you understand that women can do whatever they want. They want to dress and make tips wearing scantily clad outfits. Fine, right? Now, do the people protesting the Drag Queen Story Hour, do they take their kids to Hooters? That that would also be hypocritical, I would say, if you're asking it that way, Chris. So if you're, oh my God, the children, they can't see sexualized women or men in any place where there's children are, and they take them to Hooters, then yeah, I think you're proving a point there.
But that says that you think drag queens are somehow sexualized, and I just don't think
Exactly.
they are.
Well,
So
no,
the
but
comparison is moot.
if I was a parent who did think that Drag Queen Story Hour was a sexualized event, and then I take my kids after protesting to Hooters, then yes, I would think that would be hypocritical. You see what I'm saying? Because Hooters, you can argue with me, but they obviously dress the way they do because it brings in people that like to see women in scantily clad outfits, bring them wings. Although I feel like the shorts are shorter than the shirt, but whatever.
What I think Hooter Girl Story Hour at the library was a good idea. I probably wouldn't take my kids to it because their whole point is dressing up in sexualized outfits. And I don't think drag queens outfits are sexualized.
No, I don't. I don't either. But I would disagree. I wouldn't care either way. I mean, I really don't. I don't have pearls to clutch over this. I don't see why I would want to bring Hooters Story Hour.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would do it. But if I saw someone in a Hooters outfit reading a story to a child,
I wouldn't be aghast.
I wouldn't.
I also wouldn't necessarily go, "Oh, that looks fun."
Yeah,
whereas a drag queen, I would think, "Oh, that looks fun." I don't know why.
And yeah, Chris, I think you're missing the point. And if you don't like the topic, that's fine. You feminists would be crying if male teachers to the 6th grade to a strip club. Again, you're not following very well today, I don't think. We're not taking children to places that are meant for adults. We're taking them to the library to be read a storybook. Okay. So try to keep up on the topic that we're talking about. And I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm just saying that's what we're talking about. So it's fine. And Randy, this is also the point. It's the choice. They're protesting these Bay Area against mandate people, right? Don't want to be told what to do about vaccines. You shouldn't be able to tell me what I could do, this, that, and the other. But they're protesting parents exercising their parental rights. That's what they're doing. I am a parent. I have a child. I am choosing to take my child to a library by choice to hear a storybook read by a drag queen. My choice. Why do you have to protest that? If you don't want to see a drag queen read a storybook to children, don't go to the library then. Don't go to that particular day at that particular hour. It's so very simple. I don't understand the point of protesting this at all. At all. So it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Yeah, Natalie. Chris seems to not see a difference between watching Mrs. Doubtfire and a hardcore porn video. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know, Chris. Do you understand the difference between those? I don't know. But yeah, it's an interesting point. But I think that Chris actually is echoing, possibly, I'm not going to speak for you, Chris, the belief system of those that do protest Drag Queen Story Hour. They just don't get it.
They don't understand.
I hope that you do, Chris. I hope that you do get it. All right. We're going to do a couple of quick headlines. When we come back, I'll also touch briefly on the Reddit protest. If anybody hops on Reddit or any of the kind of third-party apps that link to Reddit, let me know which ones you follow, because I think that it's pretty funny. I read some of the subreddits, usually the ones that make the news, and then I kind of go down the rabbit hole of Reddit. JPMorgan Chase has reached a massive settlement with Jeffrey Epstein's victims, touching on that as well. And then a guy is suing Safeway over their quote unquote deals. And when I read about it, I was like, I'm going to have to pay much more close attention when I go grocery shopping. I'm just going to have to. All right, click that thumbs up button and we'll discuss all of that after Kim and News.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Good afternoon to you on the Nikki Medoro Show. Let us begin this newscast with, Donald Trump. It is the lead. Former President Trump has arrived in Florida. We're keeping tabs on his every move. He's arrived in Florida ahead of tomorrow's arraignment at the federal courthouse in Miami. He left his Bedminster, New Jersey golf course this morning. Trump indicted last week, of course, on 37 felony counts connected to the handling of classified documents. A major freeway bridge in Pennsylvania will need to be demolished after a tanker truck fire caused a section of the span to collapse. That happened on Sunday. Check this out. Whew, that's a bad one. The State Department of Transportation officials say the driver of a tanker truck lost control, crashed, and caused this massive fire. ABC of Pennsylvania reporting a body has been found in the rubble of that bridge on I-95, but the transportation secretary declined to confirm any deaths. So it's unclear exactly whether this is a fatal accident now or not, but we'll keep you posted on the developments there. America's top diplomat will visit Beijing next week amid heightened tensions between the United States and China and Russia. In a news conference today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken confirmed China has operated a facility in Cuba to collect intelligence on the United States for years. Earlier this year, Blinken canceled a trip to Beijing after a Chinese spy balloon was discovered flying over the United States. So this is going to be a very interesting meeting. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer wants the United States to double the number of firefighters working to fight all those fires in Canada. There are 300 U.S. firefighters working to put out raging wildfires in Quebec. The Democrat, New York senior senator, says New Yorkers stepped outdoors last week and felt like they were living in a chimney. Yeah, welcome to California and fire season. Now you know how it feels. The Golden Globes award show changing hands. Multiple reports say the once popular award show is being sold to Dick Clark Productions. The Hollywood Foreign Press, which sponsored the show, is shutting down after dealing with a series of scandals. And finally, those scandals seem to have caught up with them and they are checking out. And that's it. So selling
The Golden Globes, the Golden
Mhm.
Globe Award show, or
Yeah.
just the or the organization behind the Golden
The
Globes.
Golden Globes award show used to be run by the Hollywood Foreign Press
Yes.
and given out by the Hollywood Foreign Press.
And they had a lot of
Oh,
controversy because of, just not
race.
discrimination, but race. Yeah, not having enough
Mhm.
people on the Hollywood Foreign Press of
And
other
so now it looks like they've sold
places.
it. So here's more on this. It appears the small yet powerful group of international entertainment journalists have been under fire for several reasons, chief among them a lack of diversity and Black members. As a result, TV networks have been reluctant to broadcast the Golden Globes. NBC didn't even air it in 2022.
Right.
So the Golden Globes are being sold to Dick Clark Productions, a private investment firm. Dick Clark Productions, now owned by Penske Media, which publishes several magazines, including Rolling Stone and Variety. Penske is partnering with private investment firm Eldridge Industries. Dick Clark Productions will produce the Golden Globe show starting next year. So the whole thing now owned by Penske Media.
Is Ryan
Yeah.
Seacrest with Dick Clark Productions? I feel like.
I think so, but I'm not sure. He's
Oh,
had
please
so many
may it not be
jobs.
another.
But
I nothing against Ryan
Yeah.
Seacrest, one of the hardest working men out there. I have to say. I mean, he's in everything. It seems like, but him and Steve Harvey, it's like how many different shows, radio, podcasts can these guys do and never be home? But yeah. Oh, okay. We'll see how it turns out then.
I mean, I guess that the criticism will stop, right? So
Well, I don't know about that. They're gonna. Sometimes it's just under new management helps a lot, right?
they're going to
So,
have to be much more inclusive.
yeah,
They're going to
I
have
hope
to make
so.
it a point right out of the gate to say we're doing things differently and this is how,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, so last story I have for you. I don't know if you saw this whole NBA fight situation.
No.
I have a picture of it. Yeah. Okay, so here's what it looks like. Here's what it looked like during the fight. Uh-oh, that's not good.
Is that the mascot?
Yes, it is. Conor McGregor apparently doesn't know his own strength, the story says. The former UFC champion sent the Miami Heat's mascot to the hospital during Friday's NBA Finals game. The incident starts with a planned sketch where McGregor and the mascot exchanged some blows in a fake fight on the court. While McGregor's punches were so strong that he accidentally injured the man inside the mascot costume. He was treated at the hospital for minor injuries. He's expected to be okay, but oops, that whole sketch didn't go as planned.
My God, Connor, give the guy a break. I wonder if like he hit, I don't know where he hit him, but maybe like in the head and then it bounced and hit him even harder. Or you think they would have practiced this a little bit?
Yeah,
so
you
they
would
would have
think it would have
known.
been more choreographed, but apparently no, it
Oh,
wasn't.
geez. Well, poor guy. Hopefully he'll be okay.
This show is indeed crowdfunded, which means we rely on you. You can find the Nikki Medoro Show. That's the website where we have the Patreon and the PayPal link set up and ready to go. And of course, the Super Chat is live here on YouTube. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Well, some people in the chat are giving some other details. N-Star says he knows his own strength. He punched him a second time when he was already on the ground, so his head is already on the hard floor. Ooh.
Ow.
Yeah, and then Randy says, I read one story that said McGregor was on drugs.
Oh, God.
Allegedly. I don't know. But geez, maybe he won't be invited back. I bet he won't be invited back to do that again. So no.
Next time they know they have an MMA fighter, they won't be like, hey, let's do the sketch. No.
Yeah, exactly.
We
Not
tried
gonna
that. That's
not gonna happen. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show. A reminder, it's a little bit abbreviated towards the end because I'm taking my daughter to the hospital to start her new medication. So if you're watching this on replay, that's why the show is probably about a half hour shorter. But I'm here right now. So the Reddit protest, any Redditors, I don't know, is that what you call them?
Yeah,
What do you call, I guess like Twitter has tweets, right? Facebook has posts. Is I don't use Reddit.
I don't
So
know.
is there something for Reddit? You guys in the comments, let me know. Make me sound smart. But anyways, there's a protest happening right now. Nearly 3,500 subreddits will be inaccessible for the next 48 hours and possibly longer. Now, the protest includes 5 of the 10 most popular forums, such as dealing with gaming, and Today I Learned. Okay. So the reason this is happening is because back in April, Reddit CEO said the company would begin to charge for access to its API, application programming interface. Now, what that does is it allows third-party developers to tap into Reddit's data to build their own apps or train AI chatbots like ChatGPT. Now, the CEO told the New York Times the data is valuable and it doesn't make business sense to keep giving it away for free. Apparently, Elon Musk made a similar decision at Twitter earlier this year, revoking free API access and introducing paid tiers. Okay, so they're not the first to do this, but apparently the price is too high. One guy went on Reddit. He said that he had a call with Reddit to discuss their pricing, and his app is called Apollo. And if they did the pricing as is, Apollo would have to pay Reddit $20 million per year to keep running as is. Okay. So he has this great Reddit post about it. So first he said Reddit said that they were going to start charging, but it was going to be reasonable. So this is what he said. He says, I'll cut to the chase. 50 million requests cost $12,000. Okay. Apollo, the app, made 7 billion requests for data last month. That would put it at about $1.7 million per month or 20 million per year. He says, even if I only kept subscription users, the average Apollo user uses 344 requests per day, which would cost $2.50 a month, $2.50 a month, which is more than double what the subscription currently costs. So he'd be in the red. So obviously the answer to that is bump up your subscription, but obviously he'd lose some customers. So anyways, the reason why I also brought this up, just copying Twitter's moving on charging and realized it was successful. Editors were not happy. Yeah, they're not happy. They're protesting right now. So he has this great analogy that totally made sense to me. And now I want you guys to tell me if what Reddit is doing is fair. So he says, what is API anyway and why is it important? He says the best way to explain it is think of Reddit having a bouncer. And since day one, the bouncer's been friendly, where if you ask, hey, can you list out the comments for me on post X, like a Reddit post, the bouncer would happily respond with whatever you requested, provided you did not ask so often that it was silly. That's the Reddit API. I ask Reddit, the bouncer, for data, and it provides it so I can display it in my app, Apollo, for users. The proposed changes mean the bouncer will still exist, but now ask for an exorbitant amount per question. But is this something that Reddit should be giving away for free? I mean, the reason why Apollo is successful is because of the information it gets off Reddit. Do you not think that Reddit should get a piece of the pie? Now, should there be a reasonable amount of money? Yes. But I also just think that Reddit has to also keep what it creates and make money off of it. Yeah, so Anonymous says the CEO went on Reddit to do a Q&A and he accidentally posted a comment showing all the responses were scripted and the mods were in on it. Bad look. Yeah. So I don't know how many of you are Redditors. I'm going to make up my own terminology because I don't use Reddit.
No, they said that's right. Redditors is right.
Redditors? Oh,
Yeah.
look at that. Reddictators. I like Chris. That's so funny. Nit says Reddit has some really good, serious support subs that are well monitored. It's not just fluff and argument. Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole in Reddit, and there's some fun, and there's serious, and there's, kind of like most social media. There could be things that you need to bring attention to that go viral on Reddit. There's some other things that don't. So we'll see how this plays out. But if you use Reddit, a lot of the most popular ones are dark today. And apparently, I think it's the end of the month. the end of the month is when this new paid tier is supposed to happen, or the pricing. So many people are saying hopefully there's a compromise that can be made, but I don't know what that's going to be. So good luck to them. JPMorgan Chase has reached a $290 million settlement with Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse victims. Now the agreement is still under court approval, blah, blah, blah. They have not released many details of it. But the reason why they had to pay up is the victims accused the bank of enabling sex trafficking because they knew that he was a sex trafficker and still kept giving him big loans, tons of money to continue to do the things that he was accused of doing. So,
I guess the question is, did the bank know?
Yes. Well, no, he'd already been taken to court. I mean, he'd already been sued. Like they knew what he was doing. The victims have already reached a previous settlement with Deutsche Bank for $75 million. Now this is a class action lawsuit. I just can't imagine. I mean, and of course, Jeffrey Epstein's dead, so it's not like he's having to live under this shadow anymore. But JPMorgan Chase will not admit liability in the case. They said that this settlement is in the best interest of all parties, especially the survivors who were victims of his abuse. And again, you'll remember he was arrested in 2019 on charges of sex trafficking minors, died in prison soon after his release. It's been deemed a suicide, but many people do not believe it was a suicide. They believe because of the high-profile people that used to visit his island that maybe somebody had him killed. So we're not going to get into all of that conspiracy, but I mean, and then what happened with what's her face, Ghislaine?
She's still in jail.
Yeah, but like in prison, she's been sentenced, right?
Yeah.
Well, how many years did she get? Do you remember?
Hold on.
Hold on. Ghislaine Maxwell. Yeah, she was found guilty.
How sad that we know her name.
Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but sentenced to 20 years. 20 years. Okay, so she got 20 years in prison. And she's still alive. They just killed off Jeffrey Epstein, or he committed suicide. I'm glad they're paying up, though. I mean, these banks have to know what they're
years.
20. What, you don't think that's long enough?
I don't know. I mean, to facilitate the abuse of kids, basically.
Yes, not basically. Yes, of kids, sex trafficking kids, and then Ghislaine Maxwell. She was the one that would find or was accused. Well, she's found.
I don't think that's long
finding
enough.
These girls.
Yeah, and she knew what they were headed for.
Oh God,
and
yeah.
So I don't think 20 years. I people that do that to children should go away forever. She should go away forever.
She's 61. I mean, most likely she'll either die or be really, really old when she comes out of prison. So
unless she gets out with the good behavior, and then it's like, what is it? Usually a third of the sentence. So she gets out in 5 years or something. I'll be disgusted.
Yeah, absolutely. If you watched that Jeffrey Epstein, what was it on Netflix? There was one of those documentaries that was showing everything. Oh my God. It's sick. It's so freaking sick what would happen. So I'm glad that JPMorgan has to pay up. I hope that sends a message to other freaking banks and know who you're giving this money to. But when you're talking about someone like Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, they're so connected. It's just so freaking disgusting.
It's gross.
It is. All right. Well, a little lighter, but still a lawsuit. Staying in the lawsuit vein right now. A Northern California man is suing Safeway because he noticed something about his ice cream. So this guy buys ice cream apparently regularly. How closely do you follow the prices of the things you buy, Kim? I mean,
not closely at all. No.
I mean, I think that it's just, I know what milk is about. I know, I know the price it's about this much. It's about that much. Well,
but if you told me buy one, get one free, I'd be like, oh, okay.
Right.
Great.
So for instance, I was in Lucky, not Safeway, but Lucky. My husband drinks the Orange Rockstars. Okay. And I was looking at the price and it was buy 3, get 3 free. So buy one, get one. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at the price. I'm like, I don't even know if that's a good price for it. And so I was thinking if I got them anyway, because he wanted them and I was buying them anyway, and I could get 3 free for whatever price it was at. But I thought, is my laziness not being is it costing me? Because I could just try and find it for cheaper somewhere else. Well, apparently this one guy buys a lot of, Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Caleb Haley went to his local Safeway store in McKinleyville to buy the ice cream. He paid $7.49 in a buy one, get one free sale that was eligible for using a Safeway Club card. But the price of the ice cream was lower than prior to the promotion. It was normally $4. So they weren't really giving him any sort of real deal. So once the buy one, get one deal ended, the price for his ice cream went back down to $4. Now, I would say, 4 and 4 is 8. So you're saving 50 cents, but it's not quite the deal that they're thinking of, right? Because
it's not as advertised.
If
it's
you're not
saying buy one, get one free. What you mean is take your $4 ice cream and get another one for free. That means $2 per ice cream.
Right. But he paid $7.49 for 2, right? For the buy one, get one. So apparently these promotions had been offered at 243 California Safeway stores over the last 4 years. And it accuses Safeway of raising the cost of goods included in special sales. So the customers have to pay more for their product of choice and buy more of it than they typically would in order to get what's advertised to them as a better deal. Those buy one, get ones, you have to be careful of those deals. I need to pay, especially now with inflation and everything going up in price. People will be like, oh, I'm going to get that brand because that brand is included in this buy one, get one or whatever deal. And yeah, it's not the deal that you think it is. So the lawsuit also claims other price spikes during Safeway's BOGO deals. Gorton's frozen fish sticks increased from $8.99 to $11.99. Pete's coffee went from $8.99 to $13.99. Oreo cookies went from $4.99 to $6.79. Dreyer's ice cream, it went almost double, $4 to $4 or $7.49. Same with
so much
Haagen-Dazs.
trouble. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You know where else I seem to notice they change the prices right before a sale is the Gap.
Oh, I'm not a Gap shopper. Really? They do that all the time?
Like sometimes I'm looking for jackets, back to school jackets or back to school clothes, and I'll notice that things have one price that are
Right.
they're set at a sale price, and then all of a sudden it's going to be like the big 25% off. Well, they raise the prices again, so they can lower it's very strange how they do it.
Yeah. Again, it's similar to rebates. I was going to mention Kohl's. You took the word right out of my mouth, Natalie. Kohl's and Kohl's Cash and this, that, and the other. And, you could get it. Even Ross, for instance, right? Or TJ Maxx or something, right? I don't know if TJ Maxx does it, but I know Ross does. So they'll have the original tag on it and then they'll put their sticker over it. I'm like, I don't know if that's actually true, but they try to make you think that you're getting a huge deal when many times you're not. They're just raising the price on it. So they're not losing any money, but they're bringing you in possibly with the sign that says buy one, get one or 50% off the entire store. And then in tiny little words, it's like, except all the things that you actually want to buy.
It's a total racket. Yeah.
And you're like, Wes is like, it's misleading. But how is it illegal?
False advertising. They can't do that.
I would say, yeah, that's what I would think. So apparently this isn't the first time Safeway's been accused of overcharging or deliberately misleading its customers. In 2014, Safeway agreed to pay $2.2 million to settle a lawsuit filed in Marin County. It alleged it charged higher prices than advertised, misrepresented the weights of products, and falsely claimed that produce from other countries was locally grown. Last month, it agreed to pay $107 million to settle another class action lawsuit. That one alleged customers had been duped on similar buy one, get one deals on boneless pork chops. It improperly charged Portland customers a 1% clean energy surcharge on non-grocery items. This Safeway seems to have a history of bad business. And obviously they're losing these lawsuits. So, Sherry says, seems like everything at Safeway is minimum $5. Prices increase $100 or $1 to $2 every couple of weeks. Yeah, they're probably doing it slowly so you don't notice, and then they're going to bring it back down for some sort of sale. I get why Wes is asking, is it illegal? I think it is if you're just doing it for the sales, but we'll see what a judge says. I mean, that's what the lawsuit is going to look at. Karen says it's like brands that charge the same price for less quantity, sneaking it past you if they can. Yeah, the shrinkflation that we talked about a lot. Remember the supply chain issues? So you're buying a box of cereal, let's say, but it has a couple fewer ounces than it had last time, but the price is the same or even higher. Let's see. What Safeway will do, John says, is put up some meat for sale, like $4.99 a pound, and then have a mega pack. Then only put a couple of mega packs out, but have individual cuts of meat. Yep. I mean, you have to be careful. You really have to be careful. Kay refuses to shop at Safeway. Interesting. Well, I mean, with all the lawsuits that they're facing, I'm not surprised. Karen says, I dislike CVS and Safeway for their pricing strategies. Yeah, it's just hard, and everyone's watching their pennies because it's tough right now. Melody says people get very confused by the buy two for whatever the price is, and you only need to buy one. Well, some of them, I'm glad you brought that up, Melody, because sometimes it says in the fine print that to get that price, you have to buy two, which I never understand. Like, just sell it for that price. So, for instance, if you check out, it'll scan for, let's say, if it's $5.50 is the regular price, but you can get it for $5 if you buy two. So when you scan it, it'll say $5.50, and then when you scan the next one, that's when it drops down the price. So I don't know if you can get it if you just buy one, if the scanner only does it that way. So that's why you would kind of be screwed out of it. Al Anonymous is same manipulation as saying X product made with real meat, but it's only 1% actual meat. With same with egg definitions. Okay, I mean, you just have to read some of the fine print on that. Yeah, they usually have. Is it Safeway or Lucky that has the pick 5? I think it's Lucky. So everything's $5, but you have to get 5 of them. So if you pick 5 meats, for instance, they have to have the sticker on it. You get all of them for $5. Well, obviously you want to choose the one that has the most amount in it because then you get the most amount of meat. Food Max. I used to go to Food Max occasionally in my old house because there was one down the street. John says they sell big packs of meat and tell you up front you have to buy a lot. Yeah. And Kay says I'm against the whole save only if you let them track your every move. I mean, I still use the Fetch app. Remember the Fetch app, Kim? You'd give me all your receipts.
I used to save every single receipt that I ever had, and I would fork it every morning. I would fork them over.
And I'd be scanning it. Well, okay, so they pulled back a little bit. It used to be you could scan any up until a month, I think. Now it's every 2 weeks. If it's 2 weeks old of a receipt, you don't get the points. And then somebody emailed me saying that there were bad, I think it was either the Better Business Bureau reviews or something about the app, how they weren't giving you your point or your prize for using points. Okay. And so I went on and I tried it again and I'm getting it, but I use it for Amazon or Ulta. So I'll go on and once I collect a certain number of points, so it's like $10. I think you have to have, every 5,000 points, you get $5 in Amazon or Ulta, which it's free money. It's not like I'm raking in the dough over here, but I used it and it works for me. So I know I'm doing a free ad for the Fetch app, but I think it works. So I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, anyways, you guys have to pay attention to the prices of everything. And, if you don't need to, move on to something else. Try a different bag of chips or something like that that's not doing it. But just be careful of the math. Okay, coming up, when you beautify a neighborhood, can it also be anti-homeless? So there was this article in SF Gate, and they were looking at this beautification project. Or actually, this is on ABC7. They were looking at this beautification project that was happening on a San Francisco street. I think it looks great. I think it looks really pretty. It's on Harrison Street in the Mission. And they put out these large metal planter boxes. Okay. So I'll play you a little bit of the report from ABC7 and tell me, can you beautify a neighborhood while at the same time kind of making it difficult for the homeless to pitch a tent there? And is that wrong? And the reason why I want to play you a little bit of the report is they actually interviewed somebody that lives in a tent on the street. And you might be surprised at his take on these beautification efforts, because you would think he would feel one way, but he, in my opinion, felt a different way. And then I'm also going to squeeze in this story regarding security deposits. What's the most you've ever paid to move into a place for a security deposit? And do you think it should be capped? And if you're a landlord, I'd love to hear from you, because has the security deposit covered everything? And what has anyone out there gotten their entire security deposit back when they decided to move out of a place? So that's coming up. Please click the thumbs up button to show your support of the show. And here's Kim with the news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Oh, it's an interesting day in the Nikki Medoro newsroom. Let's just say that. And let us begin this newscast with this China spy story. So interesting. The Biden administration defending its decision to initially say news reports of a secret Chinese spy operation in Cuba were inaccurate. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby telling reporters today the administration was as forthcoming as it could be at the time due to the sensitive nature of the information. He says there's a limit on what can be disclosed about this operation and the U.S. counterintelligence operations as well. Kirby says just last week he said that the news stories revealing the operation were inaccurate. Well, now White House officials this week confirmed China has operated this facility in Cuba to collect intelligence on the United States for years. Beijing even upgraded the facility in 2019 during the Trump administration. So right off the coast of Florida, they're listening. One person is dead. 11 others are hospitalized after a tour boat capsized outside of Buffalo this morning. Earlier, we did not know that this was a fatality and injuries. Now we have more information about this story. This is Lockport Fire Chief Luca Quagliano saying 29 people were on this flat-bottomed boat in Lockport Cave. He believes it became unbalanced at one point. Quagliano says at least 16 people had to be rescued. Others managed to get out of the water by themselves. Officials say everyone on the boat is a local since it was part of a tour for hospitality employees. Again, one person did not survive this. 11 others are hospitalized. And this is what the tour boats look like in this cave outside of Lockport, New York. So kind of an interesting cave adventure. And it doesn't seem in this area that there's enough room for the boat to overturn, but at some point, maybe it's a wider berth and it was able to flip and got unstable and flipped over. And it was a scary situation. In San Jose, a really sad story. There is a couple that was on a honeymoon in Hawaii. And it ended in tragedy when the husband, Steve Fan, he's 49 years old, lives in San Jose, works for Apple. He vanished while snorkeling off Electric Beach, 25 miles from Honolulu. A spearfisher pulled Fan to shore. Bystanders start performing CPR before first responders get there, according to KITV in Honolulu. During the attempted rescue operation, somebody stole the couple's rental car with their money and cell phones and clothing. I mean, this poor woman, her husband is getting CPR on the beach. Someone's ripping off her car. It's like everything is taken from her all at once. Oh,
it's so sad.
There's a GoFundMe page set up for Stephen Fan's memorial service. Just so sad. I'm telling you. He ended up dying at the hospital. They took him off the beach. And his new bride just robbed of every living thing.
Do they know what happened? Did he have like a medical emergency in the water or something? Do we know anything about that?
It's really not clear exactly what happened.
Tragic. It is. I mean, being on your honeymoon and getting robbed is one thing. Being on your honeymoon, having your new spouse die and then being robbed as well, it's just makes you lose all faith in humanity. My God, that's awful.
So his wife, her name is Brittany Myers Fan. She was still stuck in Hawaii as of Friday trying to get a new ID so she could fly home to the Bay Area
Oh.
for her husband's funeral because, of course, you can't fly if you don't have your driver's license or ID or uh, passport or some type of documentation. All of that taken. So she's trying to get herself together. It's just the saddest thing.
That is a sad
Um,
story. That sucks.
yeah, yeah, really sad. So apparently Electric Beach, which is in well, it's near Honolulu, I should say. It's been growing in popularity among tourists because of social media. It doesn't have a guard, but city officials say they'll be adding a lifeguard stand and necessary staffing in September because more and more people are going to this beach on the west side of Oahu.
Right.
So at
Do they
least
have
there's
a lot
that.
of I mean, I understand beaches have
Yeah.
lifeguards. I'm not saying that. But do they have a lot of them in Hawaii? Do you see them,
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Maybe I go on off season or something, but or the
Right.
beaches I go to don't necessarily have them. But even on Waikiki, I guess there's some, but I don't pay attention to them. I,
Yeah. Al Anonymous says maybe the underwater current pulled him down. My brother, because we're going to Hawaii next month, he's like, "Do you want to go scuba diving?" I want to go with my nephew. He wants to go with his son, and I'm
yeah,
like, I'm playing it by ear. I'm I'm an okay swimmer. You know what I mean? I
right.
just snorkeling is one thing, and even that, I mean, obviously something happened to this guy, but
Yeah,
just and I want to thank Walter, by the way. Can I give a shout out to Walter who sent me
please.
the website to this and I just sent it to my brother and sister-in-law to the Maui Ocean Center. It's a place where you can learn all about like
It's a really cool aquarium. It's not like the Monterey Bay Aquarium, but a lot of it's outside and it's super fun.
yeah, and there's apparently like this tunnel where you could see everything around you in the ocean, and there's this
Mhm.
3D whale movie. So we're gonna definitely do that. And they have a restaurant, like a sustainable restaurant that looks delicious. And so thank you, Walter, if you're watching this, for sending me that recommendation because it's on the to-do list. So
I
yeah,
would say scuba diving though is different than snorkeling. So when
absolutely,
you're snorkeling, you have to be you're kind of floating on the surface of the water.
exactly,
I don't know. I guess there's some people that free dive or whatever.
right, right.
But when you're scuba diving, you've got that oxygen tank with you. I don't necessarily know that you need to be the best swimmer. You're just kind of kicking and
Well, yeah,
it's
but like you have to go through a process. Like Kim's like you have to be certified, but you can do it. Like there's like a couple
no, they'll
hour
they'll
thing,
take
and
you out. Yeah, they'll take you
yeah.
out on the boat even if you're not certified. You just have to be supervised, and
Hmm.
they'll teach a class to you basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm going to do that. I mean, I'll definitely want to go, on a boat. I would love to go snorkeling. And can't snorkeling, you can wear a life jacket too, right? So I think you
Yeah.
can,
Yeah,
right?
you
So,
can. Although the
um,
times I've snorkeled, I haven't felt like I really needed one. But, yeah, but I'll also point you to some beaches that are super calm.
okay,
That
good.
yeah, you don't really need to worry about it's that you can stand up in the water.
Right.
There's a huge reef out, so the big waves are coming in way out, and it's all calm in a little bay. There's some things you can do where if you're not a strong swimmer or you're a little bit scared, you can be more careful.
Well, it's not really me. I mean, I think I can handle it. It's the kids. I mean, again, my kids can swim, but
Mhm.
it's just as much as time I want to spend in the ocean, it kind of freaks me out a little bit. So, yeah.
Yeah. To Brittany Fan, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm so
Yes.
sorry. Let's talk about what happened in San Francisco. This is a search on for a person of interest related to this mass shooting in San Francisco happened on Friday night. Police gave the initial update following the shooting in the city's Mission District. They are looking for Javier Campos, whose face is now all over the news. Friday night's Mission District attack left 9 people injured. This was a drive-by shooting, took aim at a block party near 24th Street and Treat Avenue. Officers linked Campos to the car seen speeding off on surveillance video. They're linking him as a member of the Serenos gang with ties to other gang members throughout the Bay Area. This was a clothing store in the Mission that was having some type of anniversary party. So they had this block party, and all of a sudden, gunshots rang out. And again, 9 people hit in the Mission on Friday night. Google is cracking down on hybrid workers. Oh, Google. Oh, that's picture of the mission of what happened there. You can see all the police response and what happened. But Google is cracking down on the whole remote worker situation.
Yes.
Even hybrid workers. So
Mhm.
they were told, the workers, that they needed to start coming into the office 3 days a week, or it
Mhm.
would be reflected on their performance review. The Mountain View tech company will also begin tracking attendance and sending out reminders to anyone not adhering to the schedule. So you're supposed to come in and you don't show. Those already approved to work full-time from home following the pandemic are also asked to reconsider and return. A
Ooh.
related story in San Francisco, where Salesforce is using a new tactic to lure workers back into the office. $10 will be donated to Bay Area charities for every day an employee returns starting today through next week. Every time you come in,
Wow,
10
that's
bucks
kind
to
of
a
that is a
charity.
smell of desperation to get workers back. I mean,
Hey,
it's good. I'm glad it's going to a good cause. I'm not
yeah.
knocking it, but it's just like, come on, you can even feel good, in this altruistic reason, right? It's like, wait, come on now.
I mean, how do you get people to come back, right? So the San Francisco company, Salesforce, also making a donation for each remote employee who attends an event during this time. A top official says they are committed to giving back. They hope to help raise $1 million for local nonprofits while they try to get your rear end back into the office.
I was reading another article, I think just today, but the article might have been a little old, but it was somebody saying, remote work always, not always, remote work can work initially, but after a while, it doesn't work as well. So and then there was another article I was reading that if you're under the age of 40, you should be out of your house 90% of the time if you want to be really successful, either at work or like interacting with people your age and all
Mhm.
that sorts of things. So I feel like remote work can work in some job categories, obviously.
Yeah.
Not everybody can work from home, obviously. But if you can, and profits stay. I mean, we live in a capitalistic society, so the profit still needs to be there. But if you get the job done, I do think that it's going to be here to stay for most businesses. I
What is it,
don't
that
foresee it
whole
going away completely.
seen and be seen thing? Is that why you're supposed to be out of your house and, FaceTimes, they can see
Yeah, and
you
like
and
to
be
meet your
successful?
partner and
Yeah.
to get socialization and not be,
What am I, a
squirreled away in
puppy?
your home. Exactly. You need to. Yes, indeed. You do need to. All right.
All right, lastly, let's do this story. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are calling out Donald Trump for using their movie footage. Last week, the former president released a fundraising video based around a monologue that Damon delivers in his new film, Air. Trump did not have the rights to use the audio clip. Damon and Affleck's production company criticized the move harshly. Their statement confirmed Trump did not have permission to use the audio, and they don't want their work used by his campaign. Cease and desist, knock it off. You can't have it, Trump. That's what they're saying.
Good. Did you see Air?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's so good. You should watch it. It is even if you're not into basketball or shoes, it is so well done. It is really fun to watch. It's a really good movie. I liked it a lot. I'd
Can
watch
you
it again.
imagine the phone call though between them? Like Matt calls Ben and he's like, "Hey,
This douchebag used
uh,
the
did you see they used our
script.
movie in Trump's
Exactly.
fundraising campaign?" And
Oh,
Affleck
no.
probably hits the ceiling,
Oh, God,
freaking out.
yes.
Whereas Damon's like, "Okay, be cool. Here's what we're gonna do."
Good. Shut up, Trump. Just go to prison where you belong. There you go.
This report is crowdfunded. Of course, that means we rely on you. You can find our Patreon link and our PayPal link at theNikkiMedoroShow.com, and the super chat is open. So thank you very much. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Yes, indeed. The super chat is open, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Jasek. I apologize, but he's in the chat room live from Poland, Kim.
Oh, wow.
So we have someone from Poland in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show. Our community here is awesome. Sometimes people get a little testy in the chat room, but we keep it respectful as much as possible. Yeah. So welcome. And Wes is like, we're officially international. We actually do have, I know because our podcast shows us our analytics, and so does Facebook. We do have people in other countries, but in the chat room from Poland, I think is a first. So welcome to the show.
We're big in South America. Colombia, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or maybe it's Peru. I know I've seen Poland. I've seen the UK.
I've seen Thailand.
A lot of Canadian
Thailand.
listeners. Thailand. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's people listen all over the place.
There you go. So yes, welcome. He's waving to us. We're waving back to you. So welcome and join the show. We're here Monday through Friday. So you can watch us on replay as well. The super chat is live. It's a way to throw us some dollars during the show or during the replay. Big thanks to Wes starting us off with a $5 super sticker.
Oh,
we love you and we appreciate you, Wes. You're the best. Okay, so let's get into beautification. Now, I think San Francisco has a lot of work to do in this vein, right? But just because you beautify a neighborhood, does that mean that it's necessarily anti-homeless? So our thanks to our friends over at ABC7 who were interviewing people on the street. And I want you to pay attention to the homeless dude that they interview because what he said surprised me. So here's a little bit of that. If my computer would work.
There's something new on Harrison Street in the Mission. These large metal planters
Those are
recently
pretty.
installed between 18th and 20th Streets.
I figure there's probably about 40 of these tubs out here with plants. So it can only, just the effort and the energy, it's got to make the world a better place.
A group of about 50 Mission residents raised about $25,000 to install the heavy planters to beautify the street, but others believe it's a way to deter homeless encampments from returning to the area.
Everybody has to have a place to live, but I personally don't believe that the street or the sidewalk is a place for them to live.
A GoFundMe page for Harrison Street neighbors makes no mention of overnight camping, but the fundraising page shows before and after pictures from other neighborhoods with tents and planters.
Any amount of planters is ever going to lead people off the streets.
Some are critical of the project. Jennifer Friedenbach from the Coalition on Homelessness says fundraising efforts should be targeted elsewhere.
So for us, we really would love to see the neighbors throw down and put that energy into fighting for housing for folks so that they can have a safe and decent place to live.
Clearing public sidewalks is nothing new in the city. Last year, round planters were installed in the Castro to deter open-air drug dealing. And these boulders were installed in Clinton Park to block tents on the sidewalk. But the boulders were later removed by Public Works at the request of neighbors who paid for them because they were getting threats by those who disagreed with the idea. As for these planters, officials say Public Works supports neighbors' efforts to green and beautify their
homeless
communities.
dude, and I want you to listen to what he
Our main concern is
said.
to ensure that an accessible path of travel is maintained and that the planters are well maintained. The planters on Harrison appear to meet the standards.
So you're not upset by those planters at all?
No, it's just the way of life.
Travis is living in a tent near Harrison. He says he doesn't blame neighbors for installing these planters.
The people are tired of the camping out situation, and it's a blight on the city, so to speak, as far as personal view. And people don't want to see it going home every day.
Harrison Street neighbor.
So I was just flabbergasted by what that guy said. He's like, it's a blight. You're living in a tent. You are the problem, man.
Yeah.
You're the problem. You know that it's blight. I understand that people need a place to live. They're gorgeous. I think they look really, really nice.
So here's the thing. It's $25,000 they raised. That's a huge undertaking. And it shows that the neighborhood wants this.
Right.
And I think they're really nice right now. Have you seen these things in a couple years when they're all raggedy and rust looking and there's nothing planted in them or there's
that's
filled
the
with
whole
trash
thing.
and cigarette butts and old liquor bottles and plastic bags and whatever else. So you have to maintain it, but also look at the sidewalk. If homeless people wanted to put up tents, they still could. There's still, there's tent room right there.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's not going to stop it. Now, Wes says he isn't the problem. He has a problem. I mean, he didn't look like he was on drugs in that interview. He didn't. I don't know what situation led him to where he does not have a place to live, that he has to use a tent to live on the street. He's part of the problem is the problem he's talking about. He's like, people don't want to see tents on the sidewalks. It's a blight. So if you believe that, that's your opinion. Why are you camping on the street? Now, again, I still maintain we have to find affordable housing for these people. And I know I'm seeing some people saying, Joe, not all of those people on the street want housing. You're absolutely correct. That's one of the issues that San Francisco has been dealing with is they'll go to these people. They'll be like, okay, we have a place for you to go. And they don't want to go for whatever reason. It's a myriad of reasons that they don't want to go. But I also think that if you live in a neighborhood, you own, and I'm using that in quotes because you don't really own it, but the neighborhood just as much as the homeless people that are using that as a place to live. And if you want to beautify it, and you meet the regulations of maintaining these planter boxes, making sure they're filled. I mean, putting succulents in them is a smart idea, right? Because they have to be year round. You can have something nice there, and make it look nice. Nobody wants to look at that anymore. Nobody wants to look at that anymore. We need to find these people a place to live. Absolutely. Vilma, great point. He's a symbol of possibly the working poor. Did you notice he was picking up his own garbage? Exactly. I'm not knocking that guy. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it surprised me that he would himself say, yeah, I have no problem with the planters. People are tired of looking at tents on the street. It's a blight. Now, maybe the interview went a little bit longer and he said something like, but that's why we have to find the people housing. That wasn't included, obviously, in the news report. But you can't tell people to move on if you have no place for them to move on to. And so if you're going to open up, the Coliseum, which I still don't think is going to happen, or some, fairgrounds or some other place where like, okay, here is where you can post up, then you could do it. Like San Jose last week, they're opening up a 6-acre safe RV site. I think I mentioned that last week. And it's going to be manned around the clock by a social service provider. So it's going to be a place where there's going to be somebody that knows who's coming in and out and is going to be able to offer these people services. So if you see, Lori come in and you know that she has a drug problem and you're like, hey, I noticed that you come in, you need X, Y, and Z help. Or you know what? They're part of the working poor. They just don't make enough money. Look, I'm going to put you in touch with some maybe job placement companies. That's what needs to happen. But we need to funnel these people into a place where that is happening. It's a difficult problem that's not going to be solved overnight.
People don't want this in their neighborhood. Here's a picture of,
no, they don't.
There's just people lingering. There's a lady right there pooping in the bus shelter. Isn't that nice? So people don't want this in their neighborhood to the point where they'll raise $25,000 from all the neighbors, which in San Francisco, you don't know your neighbors, So to be able to put that money together and get that done, that says a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll see what happens. I really do hope that it works out. And yeah, Vilma was talking, I believe the San Jose RV site may be a good thing, but we'll see. We will see. They have to have it manned. It has to stay clean. It cannot be a drug den. It cannot be unsafe for people, right? Because the other thing you need to understand is people that in RVs, let's say, for instance, may have families. You have to make it safe so they want to drive in there and they want to open their door to their RV and they want to actually stay there and get the services. And if they drive in and it's, a hellscape, they're not going to do it. Lori says, I know someone who ended up in a tent with their boyfriend because they could not pass a credit check. They had enough for an apartment rent, but had no one to co-sign guaranteed payments. Yeah. I mean, these things can be, a block to getting into affordable housing. And on that note, I do want to talk about this new bill. So there's a California bill that that puts a cap on how much a landlord can charge for a security deposit. Did you know that it's perfectly legal for landlords to ask renters to cough up more than $10,000 in a security deposit because there's no cap on it? Under state law, property owners can charge, well, there is a kind of a cap. They can charge up to 2 months rent as a security deposit on top of an initial lease payment. So for a furnished unit, apparently deposits can be as much as 3 months rent. So this bill would cap security deposit at 1 month's rent for most apartment condos and single family homes. What do you think about that?
So here's yes, because it needs to be easy for people to get into homes. And we just saw Lori mention that a friend had a hard time, even though they had the money, getting into a place.
Right.
But let's look at it from the landowner's or the homeowner's perspective for a moment. You could rent to someone who could do more damage to your home than 1 month's rent would be. Say you rent a place out for $3,000 a month. It's like a 3-bedroom house, right? In the Bay Area. And you rent it out for $3,000 a month. And you have people that move in and they have animals and they are, maybe they do a marijuana grow operation and rip out the wall. I mean, think your worst case scenario. And you walk into the place after they leave and it's trashed.
Yeah.
And you have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars fixing it back up. I mean, I don't know. There has to be a balance between, allowing people to move in a cost-effective way and also being able to protect yourself.
Well, yeah. And I mean, the truth of the matter is you could sue the person that did damage to your home, right? If it goes over the security deposit, you could take them to court, but that takes time, more money, right? It's not a system that really benefits, let's say, the mom and pop landlords versus these investment firms that are just snatching up all these rental properties. They probably have their own team of lawyers that can go after you.
Right.
Yeah, and I get it. Now, so that's supposed to cover your butt if you do have a tenant that does that. As someone who is a landlord myself, and I'm now in my 2nd month without a tenant, having to eat all of that. There's also your security deposit as a landlord. There's things you have to do, when you get a new tenant. You have to paint. Depending on the time, you have to recarpet if you have carpet, right? You have to do all these things that cost money. And so I don't think that it's fair to ask for $10,000 in a security deposit, but that's only because of how high rents are. It's $10,000 because they're asking for 2 months rent and it's $5,000 a month to rent the place, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So it's really, but you don't want any more barriers to get people into housing. So there has to be a balance. So 1 month, so pay first, last, and the security deposit, which is another month. That's still a lot of money. And I don't even think they do last anymore. I think it's like first and deposit now in most places. So yeah, SJ Lola, tenants can do tens of thousands of dollars in damage in a very short time. My dad's rental, he had years ago. I mean, he still has it, but before we moved in like 20 years ago, we had to completely do it. They put holes in the walls. Right. I mean, they destroyed all kinds of stuff. And then if you're having to evict somebody and then they're pissed about it, think about how much damage they could do. Right. I mean, that's the problem. Lori says, I agree that landlords have to protect themselves too. Right now, I have a problem with the land management companies buying up all the apartment buildings around here. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. SJ Lola says, true, a landlord can sue, but the people most likely to do damage are often those who won't be able to pay damages in a lawsuit. Excellent point.
How about this? And I mean, this is going to make monthly rent more expensive, but if you section it out over time, it seems like it would be maybe easier. So say you were going to rent out a place for $3,000 a month, but you change it to $3,300 a month, right?
Right.
And you take that $300 and you put it in a separate account that goes back to the tenant if they give it to you in perfect order. So the longer they've been there, the more that account swells, and the more likely, as they live there longer, they are to leave it in good shape because they know they may have a few $1,000s sitting in there coming back to them.
I don't know how many people are going to want to do that though.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it's like a lot of the carrot, right? To do the, although you should just want your security deposit and not be a crap human being.
Right.
What was it? Oh, here. No, what was the other one? There was somebody talking about how many of you have gotten your entire security deposit back. So when we rented in Sacramento, for instance, when we lived in Sacramento, we always got our security deposit back. But I mean, that's because we cleaned the crap out of it. We hired a house cleaner to do the move out clean. We made sure we fixed anything that was broken.
Yeah.
Because things happen, right? I mean, obviously you scuffed the wall, you kind of broke some piece off. That stuff happens. And we get that, right? There's the normal wear and tear versus you put a freaking hole in the wall because you're pissed off. You spray painted expletives on the wall.
You ripped out all the light fixtures and the faucets.
I mean, so Laura, you talking about like homeowners insurance on the house? Yes, but of course, I mean, you have to have it. And then some people require renter's insurance. So like when I rented this house that I'm in now, I had to get renter's insurance, which just covers me if something goes wrong and my stuff is damaged. Lori says, my San Francisco landlord used to send me statements on the interest earned on my security deposit every year. Oh, so look at that.
Cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Joe says, I rented a place once where the previous tenant had burned all the interior doors, baseboards, and some cabinets in the wood stove. See, people can just be awful. And that's my whole thing. It's just, you don't want anyone to damage your home. You know what I mean? Kim West says they just passed a law here in Florida that allows monthly fees to be the security deposit.
I don't know if I like that I'm thinking the same way as Florida or not. I'm going to say no.
Well, I mean, you can't disagree with everything, right? And Acito says, I've never gotten my deposit back. It's typical. Really? I mean, even though you took really good care of the property? Because that's my whole thing. You do a walkthrough, they have to document and they have to give it back to you, I believe, in 30 days, or you get the entire thing back.
Yeah.
I think you have to get the security deposit or whatever they deducted. They have to itemize it. I mean, there's protections for you because you're giving that saying, I'm going to take care of your house or your apartment or whatever. And if you did, the agreement is I get that money back.
Yeah. Well, and also there's tenant recommendations too. Like, I mean, you want the next place you live, the person who's going to check in with the last place and say, don't they do that? You need good recommendations. So you want your good name to follow you wherever you go. You want to leave things better than you found them.
Exactly. Cheryl says it's a law that the security deposit is supposed to be in a separate account earning interest. I bet landlords use it. I mean, we use a property management company that handles all that crap. So we just get our rent minus all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, you're supposed to do that. I know that you're supposed to do that. Floyd says, I've always offered to do free repairs wherever I've lived, and I've always paid my rent on time. Same. SJ Lola, insurance won't cover deliberate damage by a tenant, only accidental. I didn't realize that. All right. Because and homeowners insurance you don't want to tap into because it's going to raise your rate.
Yeah.
The real question is how many got their deposit without asking for it or only mentioning it one time? I've never been in a dispute over my security deposit. I know many people have, though.
I've never had to ask for it. It's expected that when you move out, you'll get it back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they come and do the walkthrough and, yeah.
And Vilma says the problem is some renters want their security deposit applied to the last month's rent, leaving nothing for possible repairs. Absolutely. They just won't pay, which is what I've been going through.
Which isn't why they make you do first and last plus security deposit.
Some places don't do that anymore. They just do first and security deposit. And then if the security deposit, let's just say, is a month's rent, there's like, we'll just keep the security deposit then. That's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to pay your last month's rent. And then I have the security deposit to figure out if anything else is done. Exactly. Yeah, Karen, I hear you. I always try to discourage people from even thinking about being a landlord. It's too big a risk. We kind of fell into it. We never, I know some people say, don't fall into being a landlord, make a conscious decision. We just don't want to sell our home. We want to keep our home. If I ever need to move back to Sacramento, I know I have a house there. Right. And it is an investment.
You build wealth that way.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice of course, if I cash out, you have to cash out of the house to have that wealth. Of course, you have to sell it at some point, unless you want to just keep bringing it back down. But yeah, it's tough. I don't advise anybody unless they really want to do it. Anonymous says, we moved out and repainted, and the landlord found one pen scribble on the inside of a closet door and lost, quote unquote, the paperwork from 10 years ago stating the deposit amount. Well, you're supposed to get a copy of that, I believe, as well. Like I have a copy of my contract here. Knit One says, years ago, a woman's puppy chewed the windowsill. She had a carpenter replace and paint them. The homeowners never knew the difference on move out. That's responsibility.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you break it, if it's not wear and tear, you fix it.
Right.
Right. Like there's a scuff on the wall from when we moved in. And, obviously, depending on how long we stay here, I'm not worried about the scuff on the wall because it's going to be repainted. But at the same time, if it became a hole in the wall, my husband would be doing some patchwork, right? I wouldn't be calling my landlord and having them cover it. Yeah, it's tough. It's absolutely tough. All right. Yes, thank you. I was smart to keep the house. I really, honestly, there was no other choice. We were keeping. God, I still remember that. And we had just bought it too. So we were kind of really still really loving on the house.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, Station X called me. So we came a running. All right. I have to end the show a little bit early today. I do appreciate you guys understanding. It's a big week in the Medoro household. My daughter is starting her new medication today.
Yeah.
Send prayers to me, Kim, please, and everybody out there that it goes well. I'm a little bit nervous, but I will be back tomorrow as well. Tomorrow, big Trump day, right?
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be the arraignment. And now the question, of course, is he going to get a mugshot? Do we know the answer to this question yet? I do not know.
We think yes. The answer is yes, because it's a federal indictment. So it's different than what happened before in a civil case.
A civil case, right.
We think yes. We'll see.
I want it. I want to see the mugshot. I mean, can they scruff up his hair and just make him look like crap, please? Any more than he already does. I do want to give some shout outs, though. Deidre came in with a $20 donation. Here's to being international. We had Jacek, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, from Poland in the chat room today. Going to Maui on Friday and we'll miss most of next week. Enjoy your vacation, my friend. Oh,
yeah. Have a good time, Deidre.
I am so excited. And then Wes with a $5 super sticker. Thank you so much, you guys. You really do. Help so much with all of that. So again, even if you're watching in replay, the super chat, you can still donate to. And of course, please consider becoming Medorable by going to thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com, the dollar sign for the super chat. The links to our PayPal and merchandise shop is also on there. Our Patreon. Become Medorable. It's a cool thing to do. All right. We will talk tomorrow.
Wes just did us again for a second time. Thank you, Wes.
Oh, just a second time. Thank you, Wes.
Yeah.
You're such a great supporter of the show, Wes. We really appreciate you. All right. We will be back tomorrow, hopefully with a booking photo of our least favorite president. All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.